Hey, hey, it's Saturday. How you doing? I got on a little early so that we can make sure that I'm connecting to YouTube and to Facebook and that you can hear me, you can see me. Um, you never know with these live streams. Okay. So I see it coming to life on YouTube. I got to turn it off, the volume. One moment. Okay, that's off. And then might have to refresh Facebook in order to see it. Let's hope it's there. There I am. Okay. And it's generating captions, so that's or yeah. What do you call that? Subtitles. Generating subtitles. So I presume it's working. All right. Come say hi. Let me know that you can hear me, see me. There's Kerstin. Hi. There's Julie Malia, Yula Milishka, and there's Detlef. A lot of Germans today. Stealth Parrot. How you doing? Um, Boomer. Hey. Speak into themic. Okay, I'm with you there. Great. Looking at my volume level, I just want to make sure that I'm loud enough. But what I find is that when I use a freestanding mic like this, when I play the guitar, it's always a lot louder. So I'm trying to make it as loud as I can, so you guys don't have to crank your volume. But I'll likely do a little bit of fiddling around with volumes once I start playing for you. Okay, great. Hi, Kyle. Nice to see you there. Gary, Steve Silva. What's going on? Patrick McKibben. Hi. Is the DRGA Facebook group still active? Yes, it is. And bird. Let's see now. I did mention this on the Facebook group, didn't I? I'm pretty sure I did. Usually pretty good about that. But who knows? There's been a lot going on. So it's a beautiful Saturday here in Nova Scotia. I'm located in Windsor, which is about 40 minutes northwest of Halifax. If you've ever been to Nova Scotia, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. I think of all the places. I grew up in Quebec, which I love. I lived in Ontario for a long time, which I love. I've been all over the world, which I love. But I've also lived on Prince Edward Island, but I think of all the places I've lived, Nova Scotia is closest to my heart. My mother was from here. Half of my family's people is from here. The other half is like my mother was Mi'kmaq, indigenous person from here in Nova Scotia. My father is a Scottish immigrant. My father is still alive. He's about to turn 96, which is nuts. And I'm presuming that we're good on Facebook. I'm just gonna. Yeah, the volume is off on Facebook. Sometimes you get this weird echo effect that happens. So, everybody's happy. Hi, Denis Vaillancourt. Nice to see you there. Prodigal Nation, what's going on? Hey, you've got your guitar and your little emoji, guitar emoji. Looks like one of the guitars I'm going to show you today. So, we're 2 minutes into this, 2 minutes past the hour, so I think it's safe to really get going. So I just thought, I realize I've never really done a stream, even for my group from the Don Ross Guitar Academy. I've never really done a stream just on my guitars. So I thought it was time to do that. So let's look at my guitars. So I have this lovely collection of them over here now. Now, honestly, I say this with complete sincerity. I am not a guitar collector at all. I'm a guitarist. And because I'm a guitarist, I mean, I play other instruments too, but my main thing is guitar. And I like to try to get the guitar to make as many different possible sounds as it can. I'm mostly known as somebody who plays solo acoustic, and that's fine. That's great. But it's a tip of the iceberg, really. Here in the studio, this is my home studio here in Windsor, and I do all kinds of stuff in here. I record and mix and master albums here in stereo and in Dolby Atmos. That's why there's speakers overhead, because I do immersive audio mixing in here as well, which is I think is the future. Anyway, it's really cool. It's a great experience, great way to experience music. And but then I also play keyboards. I play percussion, and I also play like you'll see various kinds of guitar. Now, the acoustic thing, again, has been my bread and butter for the most of my career. But in the studio here, I also utilize a whole lot of other different instruments. And that's where most of these come into play, okay, what you'll see. But by and large, the first bunch I'm going to show you right now are guitars that I have used very often for recording and also for live stuff. So I'm just going to switch cameras. So I have a second camera set up over here, and here is a lovely little shot of where my guitars live in my studio, okay, over here. So I'll walk over there and pluck one off the stands and stuff and let you hear them one by one. But you can see there's a lot of different instruments there. I think there's 12 different guitar-like instruments stacked there in that corner. Plus the two on the far left actually belong to Julie Malia, my German touring partner. She has two guitars that live here, so when she comes over to tour, she doesn't have to always be flying with guitars. So one of those in the case is a steel string and one of them is a nylon string. And I brought them up here where I have a humidified room, and I put humidifiers in her cases so that they won't fall apart over the course of the winter. You'll be happy to hear that, Julie, won't you? Alrighty, yeah, Dolby Donnie, that's me. Okie dokie. Sarah, let's pick one of these guitars up. So the first one I'll show you is this one right here. Okay. So this one is the one I rely on the most. Let me switch to the other camera. So this is a regular pitch guitar, and you can see it's kind of unusual in a couple of ways. So first of all, it's made by Mark Beneteau. So that's his logo, that stylized letter B. He's located in St. Thomas, Ontario. He's a master luthier. He's been making guitars since the 1970s, and he's one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. He's such a sweet man. And we've been working together since 1997, if you can believe it. So back in the 20th century, we started working together. And yeah, so 27, almost 28 years we've been working together. And I've been playing his, on the acoustic side, I've been playing his guitars exclusively since 1997. So this particular instrument is a regular pitch guitar, but you can see it's got this funny looking bridge on it. Everything looks a little crooked, right? So if you've never seen one of these before, this is called a fan fret guitar. Okay, so you can see that the nut here is on an angle. So it's on an angle instead of going this way. And then the bridge is on an opposite angle. And the whole idea is that between those, you end up with the strings getting not only thicker as you go sort of this way, but they also get longer. And the idea is that each string gets its own scale length. Now, why would you want to do that? That's a really good question because most of the guitars you see have straight frets. The issue with straight frets is that the strings are all different gauges, right? So there's inevitably going to be some intonation issues because you have strings of different thickness going over frets that are in the same spot. So we do a certain amount of compensation normally on a regular guitar with the saddle by putting the saddle is often on a bit of an angle to make it almost a little bit fan fretty. Plus the B string, which is always a problem because it's actually quite a massive string, even though it looks small. It's thicker than the cores of a lot of your wound strings, so it's a bit problematic for intonation. So we usually set it back. Whoops, back is that way. I'm looking at it, it's not mirror image on the screen. We have to set the B string back a little bit to actually give it a little more scale length in order to make it sound a bit more in tune. Now your guitar will never be 100% in tune because there's kind of no such thing. You know, do we tune to nature, or do we tune to equal temperament, or what do we use? So we use an equal temperament system since about the 18th century. That's been the standard. It existed before that, but finally keyboard instruments, you know, we just decided let's just make them all equally out of tune, no matter what key you're in. And the guitar is set up the same way. That's why the frets are where they are. But on a fan fret guitar, you get thicker strings as they get longer. That helps a bit with intonation, but the most important thing about it is that it means that as you play these low notes, tuning am I in? Oh, I'm in a really low tuning. I forgot what tuning I was in. This is Michael tuning. I was teaching that to a student the other day. So this is a low C. Now, in a lot of guitars, that C, which is it's a major third lower than normal. In a lot of guitars, that flops around and buzzes like crazy. But in this guitar, because that string is so long, you know, it's about, I don't know, is it like an inch and a half longer or something than the thinnest string? You know, there's a B, there's approximately an A. You're still getting a very strong fundamental. And that's the logic behind the fan fret system, is that you get extra string tension on the lower strings. And so, yeah, that's the advantage. This particular guitar uses the fan fret system. It's also got a sound port, which you see on a lot of guitars in the last 20, 30 years. The advantage of it is, especially when you're like me, you often tune below standard pitch. This allows more of the bottom end of the guitar to escape through the second sound hole. And also it has kind of the added side benefit of giving you like almost like a little acoustic monitor near your ear. Because the ironic thing about playing the guitar is that since the sound hole is here and that's where most of the sound is coming out, right? Okay, for your listeners, that's great. But as the player, you don't really have the advantage of hearing it quite as well as your listeners. So this gives you a little bit of extra monitor. And this is the bevel. Now, this is the Ryan bevel I think he uses on this. The Laskin bevel is the small one. So Grit Laskin has one that's just it looks like almost like a little shoehorn down here. The Ryan bevel covers more of the, Kevin Ryan is another luthier out of California. He developed this thing. And then the fan fret system, the modern version of it was patented by a guy named Novak. So it's called the Novax, Novax. After COVID, that's an unfortunate name, but anyway, it's the Novak system. So a lot of these things are patented, and very often the luthiers have to pay a patent fee for use of the various things that they're doing, like the Novak's fan fret system, the Ryan bevel, and the sound port. I don't know who patented that. I'm just going to check your messages here and see what you're saying. Yes, Julie's reminding me that I have the twin of this guitar living in Germany. So this one is a spruce top and very lovely cocobolo back and sides. Okay, so cocobolo I think is a South American wood. It's a relative of rosewood. Okay, and it's less endangered. I mean, still I think it's a CITES wood, so you have to be careful. But it's less endangered than, say, Brazilian rosewood. And then otherwise it's spruce and cocobolo. The one that lives in Germany at Julie's place for when I go over to tour is cedar on the top and mahogany on the back and sides, much like the Loudon guitar that I played for many years. Okay, so and it's got a slightly more mid-rangey sound. All right, let me see what else you're saying here. Hello, Eva from Munich. Isn't that wonderful to see you there? Are the overhead Atmos speakers mainly for reverb effect? You typically wouldn't hear instruments overhead. Good question. Stephen or Stealth Parrot is asking about these overhead monitors because it's a little bit sidetracking, not really talking about guitars for a second. But the whole idea behind having the overheads as well is that it allows you to experience the way that music kind of bounces around a room. The side and back speakers are essentially doing the same function. When you listen to music in stereo, you're hearing two discrete channels sort of right in front of you. And yeah, they kind of fill the room, but in a very two-dimensional way. Whereas when you use all these extra speakers, you recreate the sound of a room or a concert hall much more. So things like reverbs and delays, very often we put those towards the back. Like, okay, it's a little funny because I face this way when I mix in Dolby, and then so that's the back. And so the returns, reverbs, and delays and stuff tend to work their way back. The overheads create overhead ambience, so that can also be, like you say, for reverbs. It's fun in some instances, like when I'm mixing electronic music. sometimes I'll put little sort of cool little synth things that happen just in the overhead speakers, and they kind of circulate around. You can use an oscillator or a sequencer, and you can make it move around overhead, and that's actually a lot of fun when you're sitting, and you can recreate it to a certain extent binaurally in headphones. So that's the great thing about Atmos, is that you can fold it down to the right kind of headphones that have the chip for decoding them. All right. Aldo Antonio, how you doing? Hola, thank you for what you bring. Oh, it's very nice. Hello, nice to have you here from the Caribbean. Matthias, hi. Is this one made of Sitka and Paduk? No, this, like I said, this is spruce. I guess it's maybe Sitka spruce and cocobolo. And then, yeah, cocobolo, you're right. Matthias, thank you. Okay, great. Sweet audio setup. Thanks, Adam. All right, let's move on to another guitar. Shall we? Okay, so just let's get over to the other camera. I can never remember how to do that. There we are. Okay, so I'm going to wander over and return this one to the front where it was. Okay. Now I'll pick up this guy. All right. So, like I say, I've been working with Mark Beneteau for many years now. And this one is another one of his. So this he made for me in 2008. The other one you just saw was made in 2017. The one that's in Germany was made in 2020, I think, or 2021, during the pandemic. I know that much. Anyway, this one is the same basic idea as the other one, except this one was designed to be a baritone guitar. So there's the Mark Beneteau B on the headstock. And you can see how he had to kind of, because of the extra scale length on this one, the headstock it's really interesting. He makes them kind of very elastic. He has a shape that he uses, but for this, because it's asymmetrical, he created an asymmetrical version of it, which is really cool. And this one has more of an offset. Like you can see the angle here at the headstock is quite a bit more pronounced. And of course the bridge is at a very radical angle here. Okay. And then this one is also spruce and cocobolo. I asked him on this one, I said, it's going to be an extraordinary guitar. You may as well make it sunburst. I've never owned a sunburst guitar other than this one in my whole life. And I never had any great attachment to the idea of a sunburst, but I thought, I've never had one. Why don't you make this one with sunburst? And he does a beautiful job of it too. And then, yeah, you can see the cocobolo on back and sides here. Also very lovely. And then this one I'm using, in all the guitars that are amplified with the acoustic ones, I'm using a K&K system. So you can, if you look carefully in there, you can see the microphone, okay, in the middle of the sound hole. So that's one of the sources. And then there's a 3-piece piezo on the bridge plate, not under the saddle, but on the bridge plate, much more acoustic sounding. In that last guitar I showed you, and in this one. And then in the baritone, I also have this old LR Baggs M1 that's been in a few different guitars. I've had it for a long time. And I added it as a third source just to give me that extra oomph on the bottom end without being boomy. So it creates this real strong presence of the bottom end. So it ends up with I end up with kind of a larger than life kind of sound. Okay, but this one you've probably heard in tunes like Tight Trite Night. Oh no, I'm not. Oh, man. The tuning for Robot Monster. Okay, so the version of that song that I recorded on the Passion Session album in 1999, that was on an earlier Beneteau baritone with straight frets. And then the version that's on the 2014 reissue of that album, PS15, where I re-recorded the whole album, that was done on this guitar. And if you've seen me on the road, I often bring this guitar along as well. So you've maybe seen this one live. Cool. Stealth Parrot's asking, he's asking me and Julie, do we have favorite guitars in our collection? I don't know. I kind of like them all for different reasons. Certainly, I love the regular pitch guitars that Mark makes me, because they're kind of what I write most of my music on and what I play most of my shows on. Sometimes I don't bring the baritone on the road with me because it's just maybe weighed down too heavy with bags and stuff. Let me see now. Hi, Daniel in Brazil. Do I still own any Loudon guitars? No, but well, officially, yes. The guitar that Loudon, the Loudon that I picked up in 1995 is still in the family. My daughter has it in Montreal. Technically, it's still mine, but I told her, go ahead and use it. I just asked her, please, never to sell it. Because I told her, I said, look, if you really need money, I'll give you money and I'll take the guitar back or whatever. Cool. Let's just see what else people are saying. Okay, so on Facebook, thanks, Kevin. Bo says, like to share a story, decades. Okay, I'll read your story later. Okay, it looks like a long story. But thank you, Bo. Joe McCann, do I ever have pickup hum problems with a magnetic pickup in the studio? Not in the acoustics, no. The humming and buzzing usually comes from the electrics, and usually from single coil pickups like on a Strat. Okay, I used to own a Strat for many years, and I actually have another one which I'll show you in a few minutes. Kind of a weird version of a Strat, so that they tend to be more of a problem. How do you overcome them? Usually just by moving around a little bit. There isn't a whole lot else you can do. But I mean, in terms of pickups like these, no, I don't usually have any kind of problems with humming, fortunately. Eddie, it's my favorite you have, and I saw you play at Hughes Room, right? I introduced you to 2 friends I brought to the show after Christmas. Yeah. Yes, Eddie, I did that after Christmas show just last month at the new Hughes Room, and I did it last year too. So like 23 was basically when we revived it after the pandemic. Okay, cool. Hi, Zilas, nice to see you. Tom, you love Loudons? Yes, they are. They are lovely. Thanks, Tom. Okay, let's move on to another guitar. But first, here, I'm going to do a quick commercial message here. Okay, I have a Kickstarter campaign. I'm in the middle of it right now, and I have another week to go. So before I neglect to mention it, here's the link for it. Okay, so it's Kickstarter.com, and then if you look just for my name, okay, you'll see that I'm working on a new vocal album, and it's the version of it that's live and happening. I did an earlier version that was only up for a few minutes where I forgot to update it properly, and with Kickstarter, that you have to just redo it, do it all over again. They don't let you edit a one that's already on live. So anyway, I have a week to go. It's been a much slower process this time than it was last time. The last Kickstarter I did was fully funded really quickly. This time it's taking a bit of time, but we still have another week. So please, please, please check out the Kickstarter. Also, this information is in the description on YouTube, and also I think on Facebook. Should be on Facebook as well. So check the link. You can pre-order my new vocal album on digital download, CD, LP. There's T-shirts. There's USB sticks. There's in-house concerts. There's all kinds of levels and tiers that you can use to support the recording of the new album. Record labels are basically dead. 3 of the 4 record labels that I have recorded for over the course of my career are now defunct, so they've had their funk removed. So record companies are not the way to go anymore. The way to go now is direct with fan support. So Kickstarter and similar kinds of programs are really the way that independent artists need support from their fans. So please check it out. I won't say too much more than that, but maybe I'll remind you at the end, but the link is in the description online. Okay, thanks very much. All right, time for another guitar. Let's go over here. All right, so we've seen the regular pitch. We've seen the baritone. Now here's another cool one. This is a non-Beneteau, this one, okay? This was made by a fellow named Oscar Graf. Oscar is originally from Berlin, and he has lived for many years in Ontario, in Canada. And back in the mid-90s, I got to know Oscar pretty well. There's a music festival that happens on land that he used to own. He still owned it for many of the years at the festival. The Blue Skies Festival was always on his land. So I got to know him through that, and then I heard that he was a luthier, and I visited his shop, and I loved his work. So this is a really cool guitar. And you'll notice it's got too many strings. Okay, is a 7-string guitar. So the reason for this guitar was back when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was a university student, and I used to go hang out at this great store in downtown Toronto called the Mill Wheel. It hasn't been there for a long time, but for many years it was the acoustic guitar shop in Toronto, and it was right downtown too. It was in a very prime location. Anyway, I used to go in there and try all these fancy guitars. And one of the guitars I tried one time was from Brazil, and it was a 7-string Brazilian guitar with nylon strings on it. And I fell madly in love with this thing. I just thought, wow, isn't that great having that extra bottom string? So that's what this is. So if you're familiar with Lenny Breau, the great jazz fingerstyle player, he died 40 years ago now, but he grew up both in Canada and the United States. Amazing musician, troubled person, but an amazing musician. And he played a 7-string with an extra high string on it. So it had a high A. And his guitar was nylon strung. He also had an electric one. But his acoustic, he couldn't find strings small enough for that high A. So he actually used fishing tackle. So he used 25-pound fishing tackle for that high A on his nylon strung 7-string. Isn't that crazy? But the Brazilian version and the Russian version, there's a Russian 7-string guitar as well, which also has a low string on it. So I've got this in a bizarre tuning, but you can, if you want, tune it in standard tuning and then put a low B on it, and then you've got, you can play, say, an E minor. You can be going da, ba-doom, ba-doom, ba-doom. You can go back and forth between the bottom two strings and get 1-5 kind of stuff. But right now, I think I have it in the tuning for a piece of mine called Meanwhile Road. Yeah. And it's a piece I wrote back in the 90s. I'll play just a second of it here. To think about it. It's been a very long time since I played that tune. But it's the tuning the guitar's in. I'm gonna have to woodshed that one and learn it again. But this guitar is spruce, but then koa on the back and sides. Very beautiful flamed koa from, I guess, Hawaii. And yeah, wonderful instrument. I even got him in a bit of ego, a fit of ego. I got him to put my name there at the top fret in very Art Deco brass letters, which he did custom for me. Isn't that lovely? Yeah, Oscar's an amazing builder. He threatened to retire a few years ago, but then he's back at it. He has never stopped. Gonna check your messages. All right, Prodigal Nation, you've been a fan since 2008. You have Andy to thank for bringing me to your music. Of course, he was on my stream last week. Do you ever do recordings plugged in or using a pickup mic blend, or is it usually just mics? Brandon, what I usually do is I record, most of the time, I record my acoustics with microphone. Usually I use this microphone, if you can see it. It's a Rode NT4 stereo microphone. This one here, not the white one. The white one's just for dictation. But this is a stereo. I'm tapping it, so it's making noise. It's a stereo XY pattern microphone. So it's kind of a no-brainer XY stereo microphone. You don't have to worry about phasing problems. I use that one a lot. I've been using it for 15 years at least. And then I also usually record the pickup. And the pickup, I only blend in sometimes I roll all the high end off it, and I just use it as a bit of a hum, kind of the same way I use the M1 in the baritone to get that extra bit of bottom, a little presence in the bottom without it being boomy, because sometimes when you add more bottom end with microphones, it starts to get boomy. But with a good pickup. Usually it's not a problem. I used to have pickups in this guitar, but I took them all out because I didn't like the ones I had, and I haven't replaced them yet. I'll probably put a K&K system in here. I still have an end pin jack waiting for another pickup system, but I haven't used this guitar on stage in a long time. I used to tour with it though. So that's my Oscar Graf 7-string. Groovy. Big fans from Taiwan. Hi, Taiwan. Great. Just checking messages. Okay. I will go grab another guitar once I get over here to change the camera. All right. So there's a lot of guitars to get through, so I will try not to be too slow here. All right. Since we're on acoustic guitars, here's this big beast. All right. Let's do it. Yeah, this crazy thing. So, once again, it's a Mark Beneteau creation. Pardon me, it's just going to take me a second to get this onto my body so that I can actually look at you on the other camera. Okay. And there we are. All right, so this is also made by Mark Beneteau. There's his letter B on the headstock right there. Okay, but this is a harp guitar. So I know that harp guitar now is a bit more better known than it used to be. It used to be a very exotic instrument. But they were quite popular early 20th century. They've been around for a lot longer than that. There were harp guitars in Italy in the 18th century and stuff like that. But this is loosely based on the Larsen brothers, the Dyer harp guitar. The Larsens were a pair of brothers from, is it Denmark or Sweden? Sweden, I think, who ended up in Chicago, and they did a bunch of work for a bunch of different guitar companies, mostly kind of catalog kind of companies, Sears Roebuck and stuff like that. So they did guitars with names like Prairie State and Maurer and Dyer and all these things, but their name was Larsen. So anyway, Michael Hedges was playing a Larsen harp guitar the first time I ever encountered them, and I fell in love with the sound of it and the idea of it, when I saw him play it live. And so then I borrowed a Dyer harp guitar for a number of years, learned how to play it, and then eventually, many years later, ironically, I was on tour in India, and I met a luthier who made the Dyer harp guitar, copies of it. He had the blueprints, and he made replicas of the Dyer harp guitar. And so he was going to make me one, and then I left India, and then I lost touch with him, and I realized he'd passed away. He died very unexpectedly and suddenly. So when I realized I wasn't going to get a harp guitar that way, I talked to Mark Beneteau, and I said, "Have you ever made one?" And he says, "No." But he did just like he had never made a baritone before, I asked him to. Anyway, he did the research and development, and a couple of years later, he ended up delivering this instrument to me. So it's a regular guitar here. Okay, oh God, I haven't played it in a couple of weeks. So. It's more or less in the tuning for a piece of mine called Marie. Wow. Would have been a big job to remember to tune all the guitars before I started. Anyway, Marie sort of starts like this. Nope. Starts like that anyway. That was really rough, but you get the idea. So it's a regular guitar up here, and then these are contrabass strings. And it's called a harp guitar because, like a harp, these strings just float. They don't have frets behind them. You just tune them to whatever pitch you want. So right now for this piece, I have the high string tuned to an F, and then an E flat, and then C, and then B flat, A flat, and then G. And G is usually about as low as I go on the bottom. Once you get below that, it starts to get a bit thuddy. But I mean, you're already at almost a full octave below a regular guitar. So you're way down in the bass guitar range. And in that piece, I use the bass strings mostly to punctuate the chord changes. But then, if you do something like Hedges, because it's there, which is not in this tuning at all, but he uses rest strokes to do melody lines in the bass, that kind of thing. Very specialized technique. You have to use rest strokes and stopping the strings a lot with the harp strings because they'll just ring for frickin' ever, right? And if you start playing bass line and you don't stop the strings, they all start bleeding all over each other. So it's better to use rest strokes in order to keep the notes from colliding into each other. So this particular harp guitar, I brought it to the Harp Guitar Gathering, there is such a thing, in the States a few years back, and people were so blown away by it. A lot of people felt it was the best harp guitar they'd ever heard. So the best guitar a lot of the experts have ever heard was made here in Canada by Mark Beneteau. Very proud to say. Yay! All right, let's move on to another guitar and then I'll look at your comments. Okie dokie. So, trying to move around without hitting the headstock of this on everything. Okay. I'm going to move on to bass guitars. Okay. So, this bass guitar that I'm going to show you is the newest instrument I own. It was given to me by a very lovely friend of mine from Germany. The one and only Julie Malia gave it to me as a combined birthday and Christmas present this past November. And the story behind it is there's a little shop here in the next town over. I live in Windsor, and there's a little village right next to it called Falmouth. And so in Falmouth, there's this store called the Spoke and Note. It's a strange name. But they sell bicycles and musical instruments. So that's where the name comes from. And it's a lovely little store. And I went in there one day, back when I first moved here. I guess it was sometime last spring. And I picked up this instrument and was knocked out by it. I love fretless bass. So this one has just such a lovely honk to it. And it's acoustic. Couple of loose wires right now, but gotta get that fixed. But yeah, so it's all the basses I have are fretless. I have a lot of fretless instruments. I love the freedom of movement on a fretless bass, and I love the timbre. I find very often with frets a bass sounds really clunky, and it doesn't really move. It's not very dynamic sounding to me. So I started playing fretless bass when I was a teenager, and I've never played a fretted really ever on any of my recordings. I always use a fretless instrument. So great instrument. It's just a Chinese mark. I think it's a Chinese brand called Warwick, but inexpensive, but freaking great sounding. Again, I'm one of those people who does not care what name it says on the headstock. People make such a big deal about brand names. I mean, I have a very strong relationship with Mark Beneteau, but that's because I was a fan of his playing, of his building rather. Got to meet him. We ended up deciding to work together, and he's made flawless instruments for me over the years. And then, but other than that, I mean, if I pick something else up, again, I never look at the headstock. I don't care what it is. I play it. If I like the sound of it, then I might buy it. I might use it. It doesn't have to be all luxuriously famous for me. It doesn't have to be a Gibson or a Martin or a Taylor. It could be a schmo design, and I'm fine with it as long as it sounds good. Okay, so it's my wonderful new fretless acoustic bass guitar. All right. Yeah, it does sound like an upright bass. That's right, TSUA. Um, aw, you're so sweet. Sorry, Julie's so sweet. Christoph says, forgive a question. You're going to play a concert with Brooke Miller? Brooke really doesn't play music anymore. She has a different job now. She is a real estate agent, yeah, and we're also not together anymore as a couple, but we did a lot of work together. It was a lot of fun. She still, I think, occasionally does music, but only very occasionally. So we don't tour together anymore. No. All right. Let's move on to another instrument. Okie dokie. Let's see what's next. Since we're talking about basses, let's stay with basses. Oh yeah, let's do this one first. I'll move on to the electric instruments eventually in a couple of minutes. And I'll show you this crazy thing. So if you're a fan of Mexican music, you've seen one of these before. So this is called a guitarrón, okay? It's a Mexican mariachi bass. So you see those guys playing whatever. Anyway, it actually, I think it still officially belongs to my friend David Kendall, but I think he's given it to me by now because he's always bugging me to take it back. He moved to Bermuda for a number of years, and he had bought this when he was in Mexico. I think he paid $100 for it, and but it was taking up a lot of room, and he had nowhere to store it. So he asked if I would take it, and I did, and I actually used it on some recordings, because if you mic it just right, it sounds an awful lot like an upright bass. It's not in tune to anything, I don't think. It's an amazing sounding instrument. So with the right mic in front of it, for $100, you basically have an upright bass kicking around. So this is a remarkable instrument. I don't know anything about it. It looks like it's very simply made, but of course it's voluminous as heck, right? And you got this big mountain in the middle of it. And then very cool kind of sombrero, kind of herringbone kind of stuff going on. Anyway, so that's the guitarrón, the Mexican bass guitar. All right, let's move on to the electrics now. Okay. So, first thing I'll show you is I have it set up already. Is this thing. All right. So, here we are. Okay, so this thing. Ooh la la, hoo hoo hoo, very sexy. So, this is a Supro lap steel. So you can see the brand name, I think there, Supro. Now, this is a real Supro from back in the 50s or something. So, when I lived in Ontario, I lived in a very small village, and just one village over, there was this fantastic little music store called the Interesting Music Store. It's still there, Interesting Music Shop. And he would find things all over the place. He would find things on the internet, or people would bring stuff to him, and then he'd have them in the store. And I really wanted a lap steel because I play dobro. Oh, I forgot the dobro. I'll get to show you the dobro too. It's acoustic. But the dobro is an acoustic version of this instrument. So even though it looks like it has frets, it does not. These are painted on. So it's a fretless instrument, and also the strings are raised up. You see how the nut there, this thing, is raising the strings up. And the whole idea is by being raised like that, you can play with a bar. It's called, this thing here is called a bar. Okay, and you can play with that and play slide style. And then you're not going to hit frets as you play. So let me get this turned up. So, yeah, it's a slide electric guitar. So, I'm playing very sloppily because I have this arm in the way here. Okay, so that's you've probably heard very bluesy stuff played on a lap steel like that. People like David Lindley He played one of these a lot with Jackson Browne's band. And they get used a lot in, in the blues context, also in the country context. You know, the pedal steel is the very complicated version of the same instrument. And I have two of these Supros. You maybe saw the other one leaning there. I won't play both, but they're just tuned slightly differently. And this one is mostly white, and the other one is, this one's mostly black, and the other one's mostly white. That's it. I got them both at the Interesting Music Shop in Wilford, Ontario. All right, I'll show you my dobro, because I forgot about that one. Okay. Got to put this guy down somewhere where he's not going to fall over. All right. The dobro. Oops. Okay. Dobro's way over here. This guy here. Okay. Now the dobro is the acoustic version of what I just played you. Okay, so so this is what's called a resonator guitar, made by the Dobro company. So it's an original Hound Dog by Dobro, and it says Dobro here if you can see that. Okay, that's the company, founded by the Dopira brothers, who were a couple of Czech brothers who came over, a couple of wild and crazy guys who came over to the States early in the 20th century, and they started making resonator guitars. And the whole idea behind a resonator guitar is that this whole all these metal contraptions were an attempt to amplify the guitar acoustically. So you end up with a really loud instrument, right? And I'm in the open G tuning, which is the standard dobro tuning. It's the one that people like Jerry Douglas use most of the time. A lot of bluegrass players use it. It makes playing scales really easy. And the Supra that I was just playing was in the same tuning. So cool instrument, you know. I've had this dobro since 1991. I think I bought it at Ring Music in Toronto back then, and I was inspired by the playing of Jerry Douglas. You know, definitely the world's greatest dobro player. One more quick announcement about the Kickstarter. Okay, so please support it if you can. Okay, my new vocal album. And for fun, while I'm fetching another guitar, I'm going to play a little preview, just a short section of a new single that Julia Malia and I have just recorded, and it features my voice. So you'll get to hear. A lot of people have never heard me sing, even though I've sung on a lot of my albums and I sing at all my shows. I haven't really made a vocal video, but here's a bit of a video where I sing. Thanks to our sponsor, Don's Kickstarter campaign. All right. So while we're on basses and electric guitars, okay, a little out of sequence here, but this is an electric fretless bass. I've had this one for a number of years. I bought this at, what was the name of that place? 48th Street in New York. It was called Fruitcakes. I forget the name of that music store that used to be there. Is it Manny's? I think it was Manny's I bought it at. So again, it's fretless, even though these are painted frets, okay? That sort of helps your eyeballs. If you're used to playing fretted guitar, it makes it a lot easier to play in a lot of ways. A sweet sounding instrument. You know, if you process it right, you get a lot of growl and stuff like that out of this instrument. But I when I play bass on my albums or on other people's things, or when I'm writing video game music, I tend to play very as much as a support instrument, and I tend to play mostly with my thumb to get a thud kind of sound. I want a kind of a Paul McCartney kind of approach to the bass rather than a really aggressive in-your-face bass, you know. That's the kind of sound I want. And again, I've never played fretted bass much ever. All right. That's this guitar. Okay, let's get another weird instrument off of here. This one's really weird. Okay, hold on one sec. Turn my amp down and grab this. All right. Put the bass back and then grab another electric instrument, which is pretty wacky. This guy. All right. Yeehaw. Okay. Wait a sec. Where are the frets? Like I say, I'm a fretless instrument fiend. I love the sound of fretless instruments. So, why did I do this? All right. Well, it's interesting. In the case of both of the bass that I just showed you and this one, these are necks that I put on myself. The bass, actually, I had it for a number of years, and then the neck started to bow quite radically on it, to the point where I couldn't really use it. Even adjusting truss rods and stuff didn't help. So I bought a replacement neck off a site that specializes in Fender necks, and bolted it on, and it worked great. So it's been very stable since. Now this one is a Strat copy. I think that when I was living on Prince Edward Island, I picked this up off Facebook Marketplace. Julie will have a good chuckle about that. She's always laughing about how much I love Facebook Marketplace. But this particular guy, the fellow I bought it off of, he took a Lutherie course at a community college, and so they made Strat copies. So they, you know, you can buy the hardware and all that kind of stuff, but they had to make the body, you know, from scratch kind of thing. And anyway, he only wanted a few $100s for it. You know, it was just his little hobby project he made. It wasn't a really serious instrument. And what I wanted was a fretless electric guitar for score writing, because I wanted it as a really weird texture. And I've used it especially in video game music to create kind of impossible bending sounds on a guitar, usually as just part of a band sound. But here we let's just turn the volume back up. Okay, so this is a very clean amp sound, but see, so it's you can play it like almost kind of regular style, you know, like here, I'll try to play an E chord. It's hard to get chords in tune, but the whole point of it is that your infinite pitch possibilities. But then, so if you do something dirty with the amp, let's see. I'll see if I can find a dirty sound here. Something like this, you can get some. So it's a bit like playing slide, but more like a regular guitar. See, so I don't think I would use it so much as a featured instrument, but as a texture, it's really cool sounding in a mix, you know. So that's another very specialized instrument, but that cost almost nothing. I think I paid $300 for the guitar, and the replacement neck was $70 off the internet somewhere like that. Okay, cool. Let's find another instrument to show you. Oh, actually, I've got one sitting next to me, so I'll probably just grab that. Give me 2 seconds. I'm just gonna, actually, what I'm gonna do, just bear with me. I'm gonna take this other camera over here so you can see a bit of what I'm doing. Okay. Let's see if I can get this set up so you can actually see what I'm doing. All right. How's that doing? More or less. Take a look. Yeah, you can sort of see that. All right. So the next instrument I'm going to show you will be, oh, I got to plug this in properly. One moment. Get this into the output here. Output. There. Okay, so a little awkward here, but almost there. Okay, back to this camera for a split second to show this off. Okay, so this is a guitar made in Germany by a man named Frank Crocker, if you want to say it with a North American accent. And his company is called Frameworks Guitars. And so the Frameworks is, whoa, there we go. That was good. Whatever that was. Was that the fretless? I'm not sure what it was. Something went falling. I think it was the Supro. Anyway, the Frameworks guitar, you can see it's no headstock. And you've probably seen the Yamaha silent guitar. I will say out loud, Yamaha silent guitar. Yamaha stole Frank's design. He had this at the Frankfurt Musikmesse, and some people from Yamaha asked if they could take some pictures, and then the next year they came out with basically the same instrument. And he went to sue them, and they said, good luck, we're a large multinational company with lots of money, you're one guy. So he had to let it go. Anyway, this is the OG. And so he puts the headstock down here, and all the tuning is done down here. This particular one is strung with steel strings. Okay, so it plays like an acoustic. It feels just like an acoustic. It really does. But then it does have piezo pickups in it. So you can plug it straight in with a guitar cable and you can get a guitar sound. That's not my favorite guitar sound in the world. What I got it for was this MIDI pickup. So it's like a 13-pin MIDI pickup system. And it's plugged in. I'll turn on the other camera. It's plugged into this thing. So this is called Roland VG99. Now this is old technology now. This is from about 12 years ago. And before this they had the VG88, and before that they had the VG8. And Joni Mitchell made them quite famous when they came out with the VG8. She used it as a way of having a guitar with pre-programmed tuning so she didn't have to retune her guitar all the time. So you can see I have it on this setting called Chicken. So this VG88 has 200 presets, different guitar sounds. Okay. Now the Chicken sound is just a clean guitar, but I don't have a clean amp sound. This is a cleaner amp sound. So that's the sort of clean electric sound you can get. And then this thing has all kinds of presets. This one's really interesting. I use this one sometimes as an overdub in the studio. It's called Acoustic Fusion, and it's tuned in fifths. So each string is the regular pitch string plus a fifth. Okay, so I'll show you here. So you can play it kind of regular style, but then it plays each note also up a fifth. It's really nice. Like even if you just play an E chord, you actually end up with this beautiful E major ninth chord. And then all your major chords are major ninth chords. Because you've got an E chord and a B chord happening at the same time, for example. And here's an A chord and an E chord at the same time. It doesn't work so well for the 5 chord because the leading tone has the sharp 4. Like you can see what I mean. Like if I did this. Gets a little Lydian there for a little while. So if I go 1, 4, 5. It's interesting, but it's weird, right? I tend to play 11th chords instead. And it's such a cool sound. But this thing has so many presets. You can get all metal and loud and what they call CC top, I guess is ZZ top sound. So you can use it as a full-on electric guitar. This holds clean, I think, is a... There's one or two of them that will give you... you can use this side thing here, and you can actually get the notes to carry on forever. But this one's set up for pitch right now, so... Which way is that? That's the D beam, so... Oh, there. So now it's programmed to hold. So the freeze is on, so that'll just keep going on forever, right? And I turn it off by doing that again, right? And then here's a 5th one. You can get all metally. All kinds of possibilities with this thing. Like I say, 200 presets. A lot of fun in the studio. I use it a lot for video game music. It's awesome. Okay, I'm gonna check your messages and comments. Okay, thank you. I'm glad you think it sounds good. Your Robbie Robertson sound cool. Hi from Dresden. Hi Susan. It's really nice to see you. And Facebook Marketplace, haha. What video games you on? The new game is called Manicaster. It's coming out at the end of the month. So the soft launch is in just a few days, and then it's going to go into full-on release. So Manacaster, Manicaster. I did the soundtrack. So it looks like it's going to be a cool game. Yamaha still makes the silent guitar, that's right. Riffed off Thomas Blug as well. I don't know who Thomas Blug is, but I believe you. Could you please talk about humidity control? Yeah, I have a humidifier going. I don't know if you can see it, but maybe you can see it on the other camera. You can probably see, yeah, you see some steam coming up from behind the VG99 there. The VG99 is not on fire. That's a humidifier I have going. I have another humidifier, an old one that I have to get refitted. It's a bigger one, but I try to keep it at least 40% humidity in here all the time. If I leave, like I'll have to leave town in a couple of weeks to go to Germany, and what I'm going to do is put all my guitars in cases with humidifiers in them. That's the best way to deal with it. But yeah, humidification is really important in the wintertime in North America and Europe. It's a lot less dry where I live now during the winter than it was, say, in Ontario or in Quebec. They get very dry. Here, nowhere near. But yeah, but still, I have 2 hygrometers in my studio. I always make sure that they read at least 40%. One of them is reading 41 at the moment. The other one's reading 39. So we're pretty close because I just rebooted the humidifiers not long ago. Okay, cool. Let's see what else I have. Is there more to show you? There must be. It feels like I've forgotten something. No, I think that's it. Oh my gosh, that's all my guitars. Yeah, the only thing I didn't show you was the other Supro. And so lots of fun, lots of crazy things going on here. So I think altogether there's like a dozen, I think. And they're all quite different. 3 different kinds of bass guitar and 3 different kinds of slide guitar. 3 different kinds of acoustic guitar, a couple of different kinds of electric, really weird ones. All right, let's look at your comments and we'll wrap up. Because I probably missed some. Let me just check Facebook. I signed your guitar in Snohomish, Kevin. That's awesome. And you have the Hound Dog as well, Evan. Cool. You've never seen me with a flat pick. Yeah, I do have one right here. I can play with a flat pick if I want to. I just don't do it a lot, you know? So I can if I want. And, oh yeah, David, you're just over in Hansford. That's hilarious. You should come over for coffee. Daniel asks if I have a 12-string. I do not. I had a 12-string once when I was a teenager, and the novelty wore off really quickly. I don't really like the sound of a 12-string most of the time. The only person I think who does interesting things on a 12-string is Leo Kottke, and he tunes it really low, and that's kind of cool. There's an album by Larry Coryell and Philip Catherine that came out in the 70s. It's called Twin House. And it's either on Twin House or Splendid. Maybe it's on Splendid. Where Larry Coryell, I think, is playing a 12-string guitar tuned in fifths, much like that acoustic fusion patch that I used on this guitar a few minutes ago. And that's a cool sound. It's a tune called Ms. Julie. It was dedicated to his wife. So check it out. Ms. Julie, Larry Coryell. If you enter it into a stream, it'll come up. And he's tuned up to fifths on a 12-string. And that's cool. Cool. Let me see what else people are saying. Your Kickstarter is over 4,400 now. It's good. Been a fan since '92. Okay, I think I'm pretty much caught up on your comments, which is wonderful. Let's see now. I just want to double check the Facebook. Make sure that it's. Whoops. Yeah.
Hello.
Turn that.
Nice to have you here from the Caribbean. Matthias, hi.
It feels like Nam. That's great. You love from Ottawa. That's great. I've ever dabbled with MIDI guitars. That's what this is. All right. That Ramel. I just gave a little demo of this MIDI guitar. The other thing that's cool with this is that I've used it in combination with samples. And like, for example, if I need a good harp part, I did a whole film score where there's a lot of harp. And in order to get a more plucked string vibe, I did all the harp parts on this guitar. And the MIDI was going through a harp sample. And so it sounded to me a lot more like a real harpist playing a real harp than it would have if I was plunking away on the keyboard. Great, but good question. All right. All right. I think I'm caught up on the comments. So thank you guys. Play a song. Can you play a final song for us on your acoustic? Okay, why not? Give me 2 seconds. I'll just go grab one of the other instruments. Okay. And get this off of me and unplugged. Got cables everywhere now, so got to be really careful. Okay. And go get an acoustic guitar from over here. Okay. We are back. Hello. One more time, just a little reminder, please and thank you. Please support the new album. Like I say, labels are basically done in the post-streaming world. Just about the only way new music gets happening on any kind of scale is when fans support artists. So please do it. Check out my new Kickstarter, the new Don Ross vocal album. All right. And also the link is in the description on YouTube, and I believe it's there on Facebook as well. Okay. Thanks. Okie dokie. Here we go. Thanks very much for being here, everyone. It was really nice to see you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm going to go out into that beautiful sunny day and take the rest of the day off. Woohoo! All right. Be well, and hope to see you again soon. Don't forget to check out the Don Ross Guitar Academy. It's my little teaching website, and there's a bunch of lessons on there, and you get a weekly stream just like this, but much more private every single week. All right. Talk soon. Bye-bye.